My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing. So, it's not a bribe though. I mean, I was gonna do this anyway. That sound is so surprising though. StylishFail. This is the first thing written by StylishFail. StylishFail has sent some poems by other authors, but you have been here forever and are finally giving me free content. So, yay! Let's do it. At first, so I saw this and I'm like, lead on? What does that mean? And then I'm like, led on, it's a pun. So as a background for anyone who wasn't here yesterday, we were talking about metaphors and breakups, and I just said something about writing a poem using a pencil, like sharpening a pencil as like a metaphor for a breakup as a sort of joke, and then StylishFail did it. So here we are. And these are sometimes the genesis of great works, random comments. So here we are, Led On by StylishFail. I found you, or should I say I chose you, one of many, much the same. You seemed fine enough, at least, for what you were, and picked you up. Your dullness was expected, you are new to this, so I took you, turned you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. And when you were fine, for me to use, sharp, shiny, and good to hold, I smeared you on the virgin white, turned your edge into nothing, mere gray stain. A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, and the faces on the bus, write-only documents. And now I leave you where I found you, with the many much the same. I just hope you will always think I might remember you. You deserve that. Led On by StylishFail. This is a cool poem. This is a really cool poem, actually. I really dig this. This is cool. This is pretty sick. Yeah, it's very cool. It's actually like a great metaphor, I think. The pencil, the many, much the same, right? And then, no, it's cool, and it is very Dom. It is, the using, right? Smearing on the virgin white. And now I leave you where I found you, with the many much the same. I like this. The many much the same. It's lyrical, right? One of many much the same. There's a little bounce to it there, which is cool. I'm gonna read it again, because we read things twice. I found you. Or should I say, I chose you. One of many, much the same. You seemed fine enough, at least, for what you were, and picked you up. Your dullness was expected. You are new to this, so I took you. Turned you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. And when you were fine, for me to use, sharp, shiny, and good to hold, I smeared you on the virgin white, turned your edge into nothing, mere gray stains. A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, and faces on the bus, write-only documents. Or write-only documents? This pacing thing. And now I leave you where I found you, with the many much the same. I just hope you will always think I might remember you. You deserve that. Write only meant like read only. Ah, I see. Ah, I see. I see. This is cool. So read only. Read only. As in sort of a... You did steal that line? Yeah. So, yeah, read-only files on a computer. You don't have to tell me that you stole that line, because it's really cool, right? And it probably wasn't in this context before, right? So then these are... the people are these documents, in the same way that this original person was sort of both a pencil but also a document to you. And instead of reading, instead of understanding... Right. Understanding. All of this becomes just like a place to leave your mark, right? Write only documents. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Ownership. Would you say people on the bus or in the bus? You started a poll? Oh. What is the poll? Which local Las Vegas poet will Jin read? Am I supposed to explain these? And when? You got kicked to a different channel? That's weird. Would I say on the bus or in the bus? Yeah, so I guess questions for you, StylishFail. Are you okay with this being on the YouTube? Are you okay with critique from everyone, from chat and such? And then do you have any questions? You already asked about the specific phrasing of bus, or the bus thing, which I will answer in a moment. I have books, and whatever gets the most votes in the next 27 minutes you'll submit. So this is a vote for what you want Nico to submit to me. I might not get to that. Bukowski vibes, but it's a local Bukowski vibes person. I'm down for that. Also, I need to do the thing. Hold on. We are currently reading. We are currently reading Led On by StylishFail. And I will pin that, and it will end manually. Okay. Here we go. Good stuff. So many things. Pins, polls, whatever. You know, I could drop like infinite points into that poll. Infinite channel points. It's kind of funny. Let's go through and talk about this, because I think, as much as you said like it is a shitpost StylishFail, I think this poem is like really pretty awesome. Where's the poll? You might have to click on the pinned comment, and then like it'll drop down into like a view-all type thing. Not sure. I found you, or I should say I chose you, one of many, much the same. I think this is an awesome way to like start a romantic poem. Mostly because we love to have these romantic poems that are like, you are the one, or whatever. And then this is, you know, like, you're a pencil. And this is probably the reality of love, is that the one does not exist. And everybody is kind of just like the same, admittedly, and they're just people. And if you look for this is my opinion, then, like, I don't know, you're probably just gonna, I don't know, you're looking at a bunch of pencils. and people are pencils. And you can sharpen a person into the one and whatnot, but you're never going to find someone who's the perfect fountain pen just laying on the street. You seem fine enough, at least for what you were, and I picked you up. Your dullness was expected. You were new to this, so I took you, turned you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. And when you were fine for me to use, sharp, shiny, and good to hold, I smeared you on the virgin white, turned your edge into nothing. Mere gray stain. So this is like probably one of my maybe my favorite stanza in the poem, just because of how like Dom it is, right? Turned your edge into nothing. There's this sort of just deep feeling of control here, with taking this person, holding them, using them, turning them into something, mere. I like this word a lot. It's probably one of my favorite words. Mere. It's got to be one of my favorites. I dig that word heavy. A letter I would never send. Lists I forgot. This is kind of the stanza I have questions about. A letter I would never send. Lists I forgot. And faces on the bus are right only documents. So it feels like, right, this person is this is the letter, like this smearing, this gray stains is this letter. But I'm trying to sort of parse what that is meaning. Perhaps that a letter that is sent is sort of like a complete continued thing, right? Whereas this person is sort of, no, I don't want to know your intention. This is like one of the chat rules, is don't tell me what your poem means. A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, and the faces on the bus write only documents. Lists I forgot as well. It's interesting. And now I leave you where I found you, with the many much the same. I like this so much. Right, with the many much the same. One of many much the same. I just hope you will always think I might remember you. You deserve that. It's such a detached view of love, this poem, I think. This sort of picking up, putting down, taking and leaving, in some cases for one's own gain, which I understand, and I've sort of acted this way. I've definitely done such things, and it's interesting, right? Because it tends to just fundamentally be a sort of subversion on the ideas of love as we normally talk about it, particularly in poetry. Anyway, I'm gonna pick the Bukowski vibes since that's winning right now. Alright, I'm gonna give you a long poem from the Bukowski vibes option. So you're submitting someone else's work. I guess if it's published, it's fine. It doesn't matter the length. I'm just, yeah, I think I'm fine with that since it's published, right? But I don't exactly want also to rub someone the wrong way with that. Like, that's why I like reading dead people when I read published stuff. Since there's the sort of... But I mean, it falls in fair use, right? Reaction content. Huh, what? Wait. I'm saying that I feel sort of iffy about that. Basically, since it's a person who's alive. But I think I'm okay with it since it's published. So submit away, right? I'm just thinking. I think a lot. What should I talk about here? Did you have any... you asked about the phrasing of the bus. Do you have any questions otherwise? Because this is just sort of like a language question. And the faces on the bus. I don't think it matters here because we talk about, people can be on the bus, right? Usually the people on the bus or the people in the bus doesn't really matter. And faces just are sort of attached to people on the bus. The faces in the bus, well, I don't think it matters. Now, admittedly, since normally like people as a whole would be in the bus, right? Or no, people as a whole be on the bus. The kids on the bus, right? Usually they're attached. Yeah. But I guess since the faces are a step removed from like people on the bus, there is a weird sort of alternate interpretation here where the faces are... Let me undo that. Box of a bus. Where the faces on this bus are like on the side of the bus, right? Like faces on the bus could mean this, whereas no, faces on the bus like technically could have this meaning grammatically, but I think the automatic assumption is that it's these faces on the bus when you say that, so I don't think it's an issue. So that's fine, right? I'm not too concerned with that one. F it, I'm ending the poll and submitting this later. I gotta go do life stuff. Jane, you're moderating yourself. Have fun. Bye, thank you, Nico. Prediction ended. So I'm not too concerned about that one. What do I want to talk about here? I found you, or I should say, I chose you, one of many much the same. You seemed fine enough. At least for what you were, and picked you up. Turned you on a lathe, and when you were fine. And I think this is a good example of how we use sort of similar words throughout to convey a broader metaphor over an entire poem. Like, I think, we're talking about the pencil the whole time, and you do a good job of keeping it going throughout, where you say you seemed fine, right, before we really know the implication of the pencil. Like, I think we only really get the feeling of pencil when this person is being stripped on the lathe, right? Because then we think, okay, like the pencil sharpener, right? But even before that, right, dullness, fine, etc. And then being able to pick you up, right? Which, of course, you can pick someone up in a sort of relational sense, and then you can also pick up a pencil, right? So this is good. This is good. And then we just go all in lathe, bark, mark, fine, and then we're just like sort of like you do this well. I do wonder whether there's some way you can use that here, right? Because I think by the end of the poem, we sort of shift away from the metaphor of talking about this person as a pencil. Once we get to this, I just hope you will always think, I might remember you. You deserve that, right? This is, I think, no longer talking to a pencil, because you don't say that to a pencil. Pencils don't think. This is now shifted to talking about a person, which is like fine. I like it. But basically you have a few options, right? So when we're working with a metaphor across the poem, right? One way is to keep the metaphor pure and unbroken all the way throughout, right? And that is going to, I guess, make it feel very unified, very like together, very consistent. Or we can like establish the metaphor. We can maybe like go out of it for a bit. We can come back into the metaphor. We can go out. Like we can do this too, right? And you can also mix metaphors. We have this one, and then you have a different metaphor for a bit. Then you come back, maybe you tie them together and whatever. Like, there's all sorts of ways to use metaphors in your poem. And part of me thinks, like, it's really cool, I think, how you use the very specific pencil stuff. The idea of turning someone on a lathe, getting them to your tastes, more fine, more perfect, using them like a tool, right? Because this is a tool. And then casting them to the side. This is a very, 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 very poignant metaphor, I would say, for like some people in relationships, leading someone on, a sort of controlling dom, perhaps a little toxic, right? But then when you jump back to the idea of the person, one, I feel maybe this detracts slightly, right? Actually, this hope, they deserve that, because we sort of talk about the person this whole time in what I would describe as a fairly demeaning way, like literally objectifying, right? It's just good. It's poetic objectification, so it's okay. You're allowed to objectify people in poetry. That's a great clip for later. You agree? Yeah, so we say, like, oh yeah, you were enough, one of many, much the same, dull, right? And it's because of me that you came to this point, and then I tossed you aside. Right. It was meant as like a last sting in the tale, but kind of diminishes the metaphor. I mean, so it's interesting, right? Because there's an extra sort of demeaningness here, right? I just hope you will always think I might remember you. Sort of the implication that you won't, which again leans into like the feeling of basically insulting this person, right? Or maybe demeaning. I like this word for this poem, demeaning. So we demean this person, and then in another way that feels sort of, a send-off, right? You deserve that, because it would probably feel somewhat good for this person to think that you would remember, right? Which, yeah, does make it sort of a sting at the end. But I do think there's probably a way to tie a line like that into the metaphor, right? You could even say, and then I leave you on the table, right? Leave you on the table. wondering if I will ever, whatever, like, pick you up again, right? Or you say you leave them where you found them, but you can even just use like, or like, write with you again, or something like that. Maybe not that on the nose, but I think there are a few ways to do it, right? And you could also take it in other directions, but I think that's roughly what you're already doing, is that sting at the end. So I think we just tie that into the metaphor, and then like I actually find it to be like comprehensively a very compelling poem with a really cool sort of theme going on, and with a bus that has faces on the side looking at you. So I like that. I like that a lot. I found you, or should I say I chose you? One of many, much the same. You seemed fine enough, at least, for what you were, and picked you up. Your dullness was expected. You are new to this, so I took you, turned you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. I maybe want to talk about and expand like on some of these, my interpretation of how the pencil thing contributes to all of this, because I think a lot of these metaphors really help give insight to maybe like the nature of the relationship, right? The described relationship, even if this wasn't like real or whatever. Can I ask a question regarding my intent and how it came across? As long as it isn't an explanation masked in a question. Smeared you on the virgin white. Then I will wait. Okay, sounds good. So it's interesting. I do get some feeling of, I mean, of course we talk about this person being new to this, inexperienced in some way, right? And this is interesting to talk about, because what am I trying to say? It's a great juxtaposition, I would say. I think, it feels like probably this person started as a pencil, like completely new out of the box, I guess, is how I'm reading it, right? Where it's just like, it stops at the end and has, the eraser and stuff. Like, this is the pencil I imagine. Not sharpened at all yet, right? Still here by the way, listen while I write. Got 254 words. Awesome. So this is where we start. And I think this mostly because of, you are new to this, right? The expectation. And I would say someone who is already sort of a pencil that has been used a little bit, right? But is sort of dull. Not that sharp, right? I wouldn't describe it in that way. So, and there are probably two meanings of this, maybe in a intimate setting, right? So we can say, I mean, you literally use the word virgin, right? So this is one option. And then the other is some sort of like innocence in some sexual regard, and given like the attitude of using it almost feels like there's some like down this path, like an introduction to kink, for this pencil. I love metaphors because you can talk about a pencil that is a virgin, right? And generally within the context, people will know what you're talking about. But regardless, I think it's starting from this sort of flat, unused pencil, right? Do I have one? I don't think I do. So also, I think that's backed up by this line. Turn you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. And obviously, no matter what on your pencil, there's going to be some outer bark that doesn't leave a mark. But it feels to me that since we're mentioning this inability to make a mark, they are completely new pencil. Interestingly enough, make a mark has many other meanings, right? Making a mark on the world or having a sort of assertiveness is one way to see this. Within sexual contexts, I mean, we talk about like leaving marks, which maybe contributes to hypothesis 2 about the innocence of our pencil, right? And which of these, right? So unsure there, but I like this. It feels like a double meaning. That is very good indeed. Like I think double meanings in general are just useful because they give your reader a chance to like dig further into a word and pull more out of it, regardless of which meaning or meanings or none of the meanings they come up with is what you really meant. I think they're fun for the reader, right? Especially to find them. It's like, oh, that word can mean two things. That's so cool. But I'm going to talk more about this in a minute. I need to stand up and stretch and drink some water and like step away from this phone for a moment. None of this analysis feels complete yet. It doesn't even feel like a start. And that's because I haven't stepped away from it and let some of the thoughts simmer. So don't watch this ad. Jeez, my back. Jeez, so stiff. I didn't do yoga this morning. I walked the dog, but we did like a long walk, and I didn't do yoga. So my sister was using the treadmill in the garage, and I didn't want to do yoga while she was doing that. Because we have some like exercise mats on the floor in the garage. That's where I do yoga. That's a big water bottle. It is a big water bottle. I love this jug. This is my baby. You know, I don't think we've had I think this is the most sexual poem we've ever read on stream. And it's about a pencil, which is really funny. And it was a shit post. Glad to take first place in that ranking. Yeah, I mean, it honestly seems like it's something you could be very good at. I'm bad at writing sexual poems, so maybe I haven't tried. I can write love poems, but I can't. Well, I can write poems dissecting love. I can't write love poems. So sleepy, it's 11:40. Well, don't keep yourself up to watch stream, but you write a lot? Cool. More fix. I don't have uni at the moment, so I use my free time to write. Writing is good. Use your free time to write. I mostly have trouble finishing things. Make a rule for myself and I don't publish something unless it's finished now. No work in progress is published. That's probably fair. I don't like showing anything work in progress to people usually because I don't like them. So, let on. God, this pun. Ugh. It like is staring at me. It's weird because like sometimes puns. Okay, I'm talking about puns because I think puns are mostly can be used in a title. I almost always dislike these, right? Almost always, but I feel like whenever I say stuff like this, it's like a 96% of the time. Because usually, for one, they're kind of bad, admittedly, like the puns that people use. And this is like a really like it's like a bad pun, right? Because it's like, oh, lead, there's a pencil, lead on, whatever, right? Because it's lead, LED, to like actually lead someone. Except sometimes the pun is just so perfect that like I couldn't see another title for this poem. And at that point it does this weird thing where it like flips around and really like becomes something I really like. And I have like maybe 2 poems that I've ever written that have puns as the title. And it's one of those things I know where you like think of it and you realize you're like, I can title this with a pun. And then like I think if it has been done, then it's sort of, I don't know. It depends. Felt it was appropriate for shitposts. Exactly. Like it makes this poem feel shitposty, which almost maybe contributes. Maybe it contributes to the poem is why, right? Because we're again describing this situation where you have an intent, right, in this relationship that is incongruous with the partner, right? And in that sense, right, you have this title which is very, very thematically different from the poem, I would say, because the poem, while it's it is a silly metaphor, like at surface level, that's why I use it as an example, but the poem is also extremely poignant, which makes the title of it leading you on almost a title that leads you on, in a sense, right? Which is cool. It's really cool. Honestly, I made a rule after I had a fic. I didn't finish publicly out there. I did not like how it made me feel to write it maybe. Also, I was working too quick and pushing out junk because I didn't want to disappoint people. Oh yeah, that's hard. The pressure of the reader. Sometimes people just want more. They're like, give me work, I want to see your work. And then you end up forcing yourself. That's a dangerous thing. So anyway, we have these different expectations. I think is maybe actually something that plays very heavily throughout the entirety of the poem, right? This idea of the expectation going in. because you sort of have, like, as you frame it, right, you have this person who is not special. Not special, but you pick them. Which already, in a sense, shows this difference of expectation, because they are amongst this group of non-special people, and they have been picked by someone who is theoretically outside of the group, right? Someone to write with the pencil, right? And whether that's men on a dating app, or whatever, right? It doesn't really matter, or whoever on a dating app. Then you get picked, and you have this feeling where you go from not special to being chosen. The chosen one. Right? And except, of course, the action of picking that happened was very, like, nonchalant. Like, you say it in the poem. You're sort of like, well, I guess I'll pick that one. It's good enough, right? And that does often feel like, in many cases, I mean, it feels like it relates to modern dating culture, where, you know, some people on a dating app will see it as just sort of like a thing. I swipe, maybe I match, whatever. It's all a game, right? People on Tinder, a bio you'll see is like, this is my favorite game. This app is my favorite game. And then you'll have people who, when they like match with you, will be very serious, right? And this creates tension, because these are not equal, right? It feels like this, and maybe I make this association because you talk about your use of the apps, StylishFail, but also it really does feel like that dynamic. Picking up from a group and just taking this one. Oh, that one looks good enough. That one looks good enough. Because sometimes when we're on dating apps, we like do that. We're like, yeah, that person's fine enough, right? So then you have this difference of like expectations, which is cool. It was very cool. I was gonna talk about like the pencil metaphors. So I turned you on a lathe until you were stripped. Okay, double meaning, right? Clothing. So I guess maybe this could actually be outlining a specific scene with two people, as well as the pencil, as well as a more like metaphorical emotional thing of like sharpening you, giving you more sort of knowledge, taking that innocence. But if this were an actual scene, you could see it as like stripped, removing clothes, and then, the outer bark, the clothing, but also the pencil that would not leave a mark. So again, you take the clothes off, now like can leave a mark. And when you were fine for me to use, right, putting this person in a state of use, sexually, sharp, shiny, and good to hold. This maybe implies kink. I smeared you on the virgin white. This could even be like sheets. Someone being splayed out, or like the actual action of taking virginity. Turned your edge into nothing, and then this gives a real feeling of dominance. Sort of taking the edge, basically getting them to submit, right? turned your edge to nothing to mere gray stains. I don't know, like, I don't know, it really feels like a description of subspacing someone. And, for those who don't know, that's when you have a sub, and, and you melt their brain by being dominant. Hey, I'm gonna submit something. If you decide you're gonna read for me today, I'd like you to read what I'm about to submit because it's actually a poem. It's actually a poem I wrote and not something I just want to see you react to. Sure, sounds good. Could I get a copy of the notes? Yeah, absolutely. I probably should, like, post these afterward in the Discord. That's something I should do. So yeah, so this feels both like as a sexual encounter a thing, but also of course describing the pencil sharpening, but maybe it's also describing a larger like conceptual idea of like the state of the relationship where, you know, strip of the outer bark, kind of take someone away from their hesitations and all of that stuff. Gotta go. But if I'm not here for your poem, I'll watch the VOD. Yeah, I think I should start just making it a rule that the person doesn't have to be here to do the poem. Because I have a bunch of backlog stuff and I like do post the VODs. I'm not sure how we feel about that though. But if you're okay with me reading yours when you're not here, I definitely will leave that as an option. Have a good sleep. Oh, you're still here for 30. Okay. What was I saying? So if we're talking about the broader relationship, right? Stripping someone of those outer layers, those hesitations, letting them in, that would not leave a mark. Again, sort of hesitancy. And then when you were fine for me to use sharp, shiny, you know, in sort of the shape, I guess once they've realized and understood the nature of the relationship, then able to act in it accordingly, good to hold. But then I smeared you on the virgin white, turned your edge into nothing. So then this is sort of the broader idea of the relationship of like being something where this person is being used and even doled down, mistreated before this epilogue section with the letter and these ideas, right? Maybe add a disclaimer in the submission form that you agree to VODs and analysis. Yeah, I do need to do that. Yeah, I need to, basically it involves changing up the form a little bit. It would be reflected, you know, as such. And then if there's an option, there could be an option that says I would prefer. So like the default is just to have it be looked at regardless whenever on stream. And then if you indicate that you prefer, that you want to be there, then it's just sort of the assumption that you better show up to stream, right? And be there for a while. So yeah, I think generally, right, this middle section is exceptional, especially in how much thought comes out of these 12 lines. Like, that's really dense. And that's why metaphor is cool, because we can talk about something as simple as sharpening a pencil for 12 lines and expand in all these ways with double meanings, with triple meanings, because like that's why we do it. I think this is sort of a very, I don't know, it's maybe a masterclass in like a really like dense metaphor. Admittedly, it's sort of a silly context for one and a shit post, but sometimes our shit posts do things really, really well. No, like this is good. And then I like the structure being parallel. Sort of these three that are intro up to this point, and then these three that are an outro after it, right? A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, which admittedly I still haven't got that line yet, haven't put it together, and faces on the bus, write only documents. And now I leave you where I found you, with the many much the same. I just hope you will always think I might remember you. You deserve that. Yeah, so I think we talked about this last line. Like I think this last stanza, that's definitely my big point of critique. Because even implying that they sort of deserve something feels counter to the poem as well. But like, I don't know, it's cool. And admittedly, like, so here's something you can do, right? That one is your weakest stanza. It's absolutely your weakest stanza. So when we have a parallel structure, right, something we can do is, obviously these three are like a self-contained story, but you very much could have like a reflection like this in your stanzas, or like this is one way where it's mirrored across the middle, or they could reflect it in sort of, and I'll explain what I mean, in this way, where that one connects to that one, like they're the same order, right? So, for example, you say one of many, much the same, and in that repetition, I would find it more effective to either have one of many, much the same in the first after the middle or the last, because then it will either reflect this much the same, sort of in a mirror across, or as a repetition of the initial structure. And admittedly, I really like the idea of ending like with the many much the same, because it's that action of casting. I was about to throw my Apple Pencil because it feels like, you know, you're casting them back off into that original place, right? And I'm really a sucker for like that mirrored feeling, right, where it starts same as the end, and then you could have, you know, something reflecting this in the middle, right? And then, you know, the extent to which these could be a reflection is maybe something you rework, maybe it's not. It could maybe be that this is really the center section, and then you have these two and those two that are the reflections, right? And you just leave all of this to do its thing. But these are really cool ways to like arrange your poem, especially because you do have a consistent structure, and I like this. The four lines per stanza, and whenever I see an odd number, it does make me really want to have this reflection happen, right? So because it's cool. It's just cool. So you could do that. I don't know how much I like the title being formatted in the middle. You put it there, or put all this stuff in the middle. It just feels like it's way over here, but maybe that's okay because you're leading them on, and you're over here, and they're over here. Never mind, I like it. It's intentional. It's artistic intention. You put this over here. Put it on this side. Be even more clear about it. Right align your title. Let on, and then the rest of the things over here. That's what I would do. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I have to assume it's intentional. But if you put it over here, it's gonna look way more intentional. Than like, it also does this cool thing of using the whole page. It would look really like sort of silly, but it gives that shitpostiness too. I think this is like such a cool poem, Stylish. You need to send me more work. Come on, like if this is you shitposting and then cleaning it up, like let's be real. We can do great things here. We do great things together, StylishFail. Definitely gonna need a communities poem from you for the anthology. Aw. I'm definitely cleaning this one up. Yeah, I mean, there's more cleaning to do, but like it's really good. I obviously had lots of thoughts about it. This is a particularly scribbly poem, which is good. The more I scribble, the more I like it. So I would love to add to the anthology. Yeah, I just don't think this one's about communities. Sorry. Do you have any other questions? Because maybe there might have been some things I wanted to talk about or said I would talk about and missed. I don't know. Does anyone else have questions? Does anyone have questions about this poem? Or what any of this means? Or metaphors as a whole? Maybe how to approach doing this? That's an idea. Can I ask about intention now? Yeah, you can. That works. I also want to talk about how to metaphor is another thing I maybe want to talk about and then forget about. Because I feel like I missed the mark. I see. It does feel like a like it feels like a very unkind poem, I would say. But maybe that's my interpretation. Well, of course that is my interpretation. That's what I just told you. The stanza about the letter I would never write. Intended as a list. I intended it as a list of writings you don't care about. Yeah. I was sort of thinking like the grocery lists I forgot. A letter I would never send. Lists I forgot. Yeah, doodles. Oh, like this person became something that got written on and forgotten. Oh, that's so cool. No, that's what you mean, right? What I just said, that this person was like this cast aside letter, not sent grocery list. Yeah, okay. Using them for useless things. Okay. So maybe I'll try to give some advice on how we can evoke that idea more. I mean, admittedly, now that I see it, like it's this hard thing where now that I see what this means, it makes sense how it would evoke that, and it gets harder to see the perspective where I didn't really get it. Smeared you on the virgin white, turned your edge into nothing, mere gray stains. It might be a matter of expanding this, right? Sometimes giving something more real estate can just prompt the reader to think more about it, which is interesting. Like, also, so the faces on the bus and the write-only documents, they do feel different, like different things, right? That the people on the bus, they're things to write on, this sort of amongst the same as this person, just for your use, right? Which maybe makes these separate ideas, and that's maybe why this stanza doesn't work very well, because it talks about them as the letter, and then it talks about the faces separately, right? So, let me do this. I'm going to grab this and put it on another page after I mess that up. Go back where you belong. Okay, so here's our stanza. Callie, welcome. How are you? A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, and the faces on the bus write-only documents. So right, we have one idea here talking about our very specific person. We'll call them our lover, right? This is the lover, and came up with a backstory for your dude Osric, the flesh stealer, That sounds sinister. We're reading Stylish's work. And then we switch to this other perspective about the faces and the other people. So these are two like very different things. And generally I would say previously your stanzas are pretty singular in their ideas. I'm going to be leaving soon, so if you do mind, give your permission to put on the YouTube. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So, for example, this one is just like about the person and their setting where you found them. This one, you seemed fine, right? Just like impressions, initial impressions of the pencil. Again, like these sort of impressions. And then, action I do to you, sort of in one thing. The lathe to the point we're leaving the mark. And then you were fine to use and hold. Like that's one idea. I smeared you, and this is about the smearing. It's the whole same thing, right? And then the letter I would never send, lists I forgot. And the faces on the bus, write only documents. Like it makes this stanza feel less singular than everything before it, right? And I definitely felt that on my first impression reading. So this is something we want to fix. And one thing we could do, like we're potentially cutting a stanza at the end, right? Maybe this. So that does give us room to maybe expand this into like two separate stanzas. And I do think giving this more space to let this idea just sit might be enough to help your reader. Like 2 lines feels like kind of that it's in passing in this poem when most ideas are given 4 lines of time, right? Which can be effective if you want something to be like more rapid thoughts. You do a thought on 2 lines, a thought on 2 lines. This is going to change the pacing. But I think this is important, right? Because you asked about it. So you could do a letter I would never send. You know, penned and left on some part of the house, on the desk, in the drawer, whatever, alongside the lists I forgot, the doodles, whatever. Like that could be one stanza. And then that's really going to, I mean, it's a bit more like fleshed out, which maybe feels like explaining, and that's not amazing either. But you could also, like, another thing you could do is sort of, you know, take this metaphor, a letter that I never sent, lists I forgot, and maybe do like 2 lines as a metaphor for the letter, 2 lines about like a metaphor of these lists you forgot, or some other metaphor where they're like a written document. And then that is going to give it a bit more clarity without like talking about a letter for 4 lines, because that might feel like too much explaining. And then we can talk about separately, you know, the faces on the bus, write only documents, and, you know, I feel like there's room to talk more about how you see them, because it also gives this feeling of then like looking elsewhere, like this idea, I guess, of like a roving eye, where this letter is sitting unsent. This person has sort of been left, and we're immediately looking to other people, right? And then I think that probably dovetails in well with, you know, leaving them, you know, presumably for someone else, right, on the bus, another pencil, and then they're left where you found, right back there, I guess, on the bus, but with the many much the same, which then creates that parallel structure. And you can even say, like, you seemed fine enough at least. So you can talk about other people. Maybe you could notice the fineness in others on the bus, right? Where then we invert this idea of this person, this first person seeming fine, and then looking at the fineness of others, which is, I think, like a cool mirror thing, especially if that becomes the stanza right here, and then the letter becomes like this stanza. Love that even more. I have good ideas sometimes. So this is why you'll ask me questions, because I can actually talk about specific advice. And then, I mean, you use expected here, right? If you never sent the letter, someone would still be expecting the letter, so we could mirror the language there. And we could, I took you, so a letter not taken to the post office, the mail, whatever it would be called in the Netherlands. Then you can really dig into this mirrored structure, which makes sense because we're turning away from this person, using the same thoughts but like different, pointing toward others. I like that too. It's so kind of cooked. We're kind of cooking, Stylish. And maybe some of those ideas sound like leaning too much into this mirrored aspect or whatever. It's your decision to make, but like I think there are some things you can do here to really make the whole thing shine. Snap, snap, snap. I don't know. I guess, analysis and feedback is an art in of itself, which I realize more and more every day, right? It's cool. I wonder if I'm better at helping people with their poetry than writing my own poetry. It's very possible, very probable. I love your analysis. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, Stylish? I feel like that's a lot to think about, and that's a good place for you to be. And I need to go to the bathroom, so maybe I'll read this and we'll be done. And if you have any other questions, that's what the Discord's for. That sound good? You are very sharp and clear in your analysis and explanation. Hey. Don't call me sharp. That makes me think you're treating me like a pencil. That's funny. I will after I read this and end the thing. No further questions. Okay. Here is Led On by StylishFail. Get it correct. I found you, or should I say I chose you. One of many, much the same. You seemed fine enough, at least for what you were, and I picked you up. Your dullness expected. You are new to this, so I took you, turned you on a lathe until you were stripped of all that outer bark that would not leave a mark. And when you were fine for me to use, sharp, shiny, and good to hold, I smeared you. On the virgin white turned your edge into nothing, mere gray stains. A letter I would never send, lists I forgot, at the faces on the bus, write only documents. And now I leave you where I found you with the many much the same. I just hope you will always think I might remember you. You deserve that. Led On by the wonderful StylishFail. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.